Look up from your telescope, take me on this journey home. I don't wanna wait no more.
What's good, y'all? It's your good sis Erica Bain back again with another amazing All American video. And in this video, we are breaking down episode 14 from season 1. Let's get on ahead and get into it, y'all. All right, so in episode 13, Corey pops back up in Spence's life and sends his world into a tailspin. In episode 14, we pick up right where we left off at that night where they walk into the house that is Spencer and Grace, followed shortly by Billy, and Corey standing in the living room as if he's supposed to be there. After a little bit of bickering, Spencer goes into his room because this is overload. He really can't process right now, which we totally understand, totally get that. And then the next clip that we see is actually a flash forward to a week away. It's a week later. The Beverly Eagles have won another playoff game. Grace is reading the paper and gets the news there because she wasn't able to make that game either. Gives Spencer a congratulations, and then this is also the lead up to Dillon's birthday party. Now, while everything seems like it is getting back to normal, they haven't heard from Corey within a week. They haven't told Dillon about Corey popping back up. They still got to figure out a game plan. And initially, the game plan becomes let's take a wait and see approach. Grace hasn't heard from him. Spencer hasn't heard from him, but also Spencer isn't looking to hear from him. From there, we pop over to Beverly Hills and we are in Layla's house and we get to see Asher enjoying a little bit of breakfast and anime and getting and then refusing or ignoring a text message from his dad who's saying congratulations on a great game. He's back on the team. He's doing well. So of course drunk daddy want to pop back up again. But sir, we got too many other bigger fish to fry in this episode. I definitely had to mention it because that ties into Asher's full arc over the episode. In the scene, Layla comes in and she wants to have a talk with Asher about what his game plan is. Like he's welcome to stay, but he needs to come up with a plan. He needs to talk to his parents. He can't just be running from them forever, which is so very true. And instead of really dealing with it, processing that in the moment, Asher kind of takes it a little bit weird. Like he doesn't get mad in the moment, but he kind of just dismisses it and walks off. And then he gets the bright idea to throw a freaking casino night at Layla's house, which sets the tone for other crazy things. So many things are happening to Layla specifically in her house in this episode. And of course, it seems like he could be the cause because he has this casino night. And then shortly after that, Layla's house gets burglarized and completely just vandalized, tore down. And this is the action that actually sends Layla back into a space of depression and loneliness. And I'm saying back into it because I feel like when we saw the moments in previous episodes where Layla didn't want to show Spencer her paper because she wrote about her mother, and she got really snippy with Spencer when he opened up that little journal book that she had, and it was like songs and things that she had written about her mother and all her deepest feelings. And I think Layla knows that she's lonely, knows that she's missing things, but with her relationship with Spencer, with her friendship with Liv, she's been able to like plug certain big holes that she had. She hasn't been able to fill them completely, but she's plugging them. And I think that the robbery that happens really sends a huge jolt to her life and really pulls her back into the space of like, you don't have anybody, like you're really out here alone, this could go bad. And it just sends her to a very, very dark place. And it's just unfortunate that Asher's casino night prefaced this, and it sets them up to have conflict in this episode because she wasn't sure who did it. And days before, he literally did this one thing, exposing all these people who she did not know to her house. So it's a logical jump to think that, okay, because you did this, now I got robbed and all of these other things happened. Turns out that it wasn't that. And y'all, I also did a video about this, which got very, very popular. This is a quick pop out moment. Jabari, who we meet in season 3 of All American, his backstory is that he went to juvie for 6 months because he was a part of a bling ring and was breaking in and stealing things from people, and he got caught. And now when he's back, he's trying to catch back up, and we hear this given in his backstory. And in this episode, once Layla finds out that it wasn't actually the people who Asher had at a party, but it was a local bling ring that had just been hitting up multiple people in the area, I put 2 and 2 together. So if you haven't checked out that video yet, I'll link it in the description box below. But my Did Jabari Rob Layla video, a lot of people really enjoyed it, and I broke down that whole theory there, so you can go and watch that video in depth to get the full breakdown of why I think that he could have potentially been a part of this. But back to being in this moment of this episode. This robbery, again, really sets Layla up to go on the trajectory and this journey of being in a place of her depression. And also, I said going back to it because I think that Layla has been struggling with loneliness, has been struggling with depression. So when we start to see those seeds get planted in previous episodes, and then what happens in this episode that really kind of sends her to a place of loneliness and insecurity, it makes sense to me that this isn't the first time that she's been here, but this is someplace that she's going back to. So that's why I said that. And speaking of feeling loneliness and or grief, we also catch in the very beginning of this episode, Coop is having nightmares. She is reliving Sean's murder in her head, and she's really struggling with that. And I think that her lifestyle is starting to catch up with her, because while she is trying to play mole and work out her plan of getting the game to turn on Taye from the inside, it's still forcing her to be a part of this day to day and to still be integrated in it. And of course, that's going to mess with your psyche, right? Because you're having to play nice with the person that you know is responsible for taking one of your brother's lives. Ugh, that's a heavy, heavy, heavy thing to carry. But again, they're planning for Dillon's birthday, so we got to get party supplies, and that's where Uncle Flip comes in. Spencer recruits him to have him help him get like the things that Dillon is asking for his party, and unfortunately, Tyrone is also hip to this, so he pops up, and then we got to have a little standoff, and Flip got to make it known, don't touch the James family. Spencer James is off limits, so go ahead with whatever you got going on. And then from there, we see Tyrone and the crew in Coop's place. He's making threats to Coop. He's trying to, at this point, get to Spencer any way that he possibly can. And it's like, bruh, don't you got anything else to do? This is what your gangbanging consists of, coming for Spencer James? Don't you got rival gangs or territory to occupy? Like, boy, go on somewhere. Now, unfortunately, on the day of Dillon's birthday, that is when Corey actually arrives or pops back up, and he got a gift, and he thinks that everything is all cool. They lie. It ain't. Spencer ain't playing that. Go ahead, man. This is not the day to actually do that. We see what you're trying to do, and we don't want it. Keep it moving. And because Spencer shuts Corey down the way that he does, Corey takes this as, okay, he's going to have to figure out how to get back in or get access to his boys other ways, which forces him to reach out to Billy, which we see in this episode. We actually get the seed planted for when we get to Dillon's birthday party, which seemed like an amazing, amazing event. Spencer holds it at the Essence Park that they cleaned up, which is also what part of the issue that Tyrone is having, because he don't want them to have his birthday party at this park. Boy, go mind. I'm not even gonna give Tyrone any more energy. But we get the seed planted because Corey's sitting there watching the birthday party, and he gets to see Spencer and Billy interact, and of course that's gonna make him feel away. But it's also like, sir, you've been gone, so your feelings kind of don't even matter in this moment. I'm really sorry to tell you, but not really. So Jordan is over in Crenshaw as well, but he's not at the party. He's at GW's, and they're basically handling the fallout behind GW bringing Corey back and causing all this problems in Spencer's life. And Billy confronted Jordan like, yo, you thought that he did it for good intentions, but he didn't, and you really need to realize that. So Jordan is definitely still naive and trying to figure things out, so he started having a conversation with GW. He's talking about how he doesn't get exposure to Crenshaw, and he wants to know different things, and GW mentions that he's been through a lot. He's like, oh, like the Watts riots, and he's like, oh, well, what was that like? And even when I'm watching it, y'all, and maybe it's just because I don't know, I look at Jordan a certain way, but even when I'm watching it, Jordan don't seem like he's asking from a place of like he's like dying to know, and this is an answer that's going to do something for him in his existence. To me, Jordan is asking these questions because it just is something to do, and it's something like it could be interesting. But Jordan is so flaky and like flighty about so many things. Like, he could be interested in one thing in one moment and then completely turned off by the next. So I guess that's also why, even in this moment where he is inquiring specifically about Crenshaw and how it relates to him and understanding his grandfather's history, because that's his history, it doesn't feel like he's asking from a place of this information is actually going to do anything for him and how he develops as a man. It just seems like it's something to know because he wants to know things. Jordan be wanting to know things, but then after he knows it, or after he gets a little bit more clarity, he's like, oh, okay, and then he kind of goes about his business almost like it never even happened. So that's kind of what I think. I would love to know what y'all think about Jordan and specifically his identity, if he really understands who he is and where he is in reference to his journey to identify more with his blackness. Let me know what y'all thoughts are. I know like they were asking me in the chat like, girl, when are you gonna drop that identity video? Because I said I wanted to do a video about Jordan and Olivia and their journey within their identity, and kind kind of like their identity crisis because they've been really removed. Before we meet them, they didn't have any kind of exposure to Crenshaw or Billy's side. They hadn't had any real exposure to their black culture, and I wanted to do a video breaking that down. So if you are interested in that video, you still want to see it, you still interested in it, let me know that in the comment section down below. But then also let me know where you think Jordan is on his journey to understanding and accepting his blackness. Y'all, I might have missed this, but I don't think Olivia was at Dillon's party. And I started to think about this because I'm watching a moment where we see Layla and Patience talking to Spencer, but I don't think that we actually see Olivia. The Bakers come together, Billy and Laura come together, Jordan is at GW's. Where is Olivia? And I'm making this note because I also feel like this is something I said often, like we don't actually get to see Olivia as much as you would have expected in season 1 and 2, specifically in her interacting with Spencer. Well, especially while he was in a relationship with Layla. Like, I have the conversation with people are like, oh yeah, it's been a long time coming. I'm just like, well, when you go back and rewatch it, they actually didn't have a ton of scenes together. After the initial setup, they really just kind of high and by each other and are you okay or whatever. Like, after Olivia's arc or the moment with the potential relapse for her 1-year sobriety, we really didn't see them interact much. But I'm just now noticing that she wasn't at the party. And after the party, Spencer, goes with Layla home, and that's where we actually get to see the break-in, the full scope of what's actually going on and get the information around that. This pushes Spencer. He immediately goes to a place of Tyrone. And I feel like he was already ramped up because he had the whole trying to convince Coop not to leave the party when Preach shows up and tells him that they gotta go. And Patience told him about Coop having nightmares, and he's already like on 10. Tyrone already threatened him about the party when he was meeting with Flip. So he goes to a place of like, Tyrone, broke into Layla's house. Spencer, one, when? And how would he have access? Like, Spencer, that's a stretch. Even with all we know about Tyrone. And Tyrone ain't, but he ain't breaking into Layla's house now. Come on now. Don't run over here and get yourself killed just because you don't know where to funnel your anger around your father and your mistrust of Tyrone. Yes, you're right to mistrust him, but like, let's give him the issues that he actually causes and not do no craziness like this. Which ultimately gets a gun put in his face, and this child, I mean, I guess everything happens in life for a reason. Now I'm just saying this as if we're in the show and it's more real than being scripted, y'all, but it's scripted beautifully in this moment because Corey is able to step in and save Spencer's life during the confrontation between him and Tyrone by stepping in front of the gun. And this is like a great act or a show of like how he feels and that he cares, that Spencer definitely needed to see. So I guess Spencer had to kick up a little bit of this dust so his father can step in this way, and that could open the door for them to actually have a conversation, because ultimately that's what happens. This all comes after, Billy sits down with Corey and they don't really get to hash nothing out, but they get to say some things. And honestly, the writers use this as a tool for us to get an explanation from Corey's mouth of like why he actually left before we get the whole redemption arc story for him with Spencer and then ultimately with Dillon. More importantly, we get his reasons for returning, because we don't actually really get the full scope of his reasons for leaving, because they're very layered, that we soon learn. Oh, and I also should note that Billy also helps Spencer. So Corey stepping in with Tyrone, and then Billy actually, after that happens, speaking to Spencer at the Baker's house and encourages him to talk to Corey. That allows for Spencer to be like, all right, I'm going to go talk to my dad. And he talks to Grace. He's like, if you don't want me to do it, I won't do it, which is noble. But this also goes back to like 2 episodes ago when I told y'all like they be competing in the Sacrifice Olympics. You need to talk to your daddy, whether you're angry or whatever. You need to get these feelings out. So even if she got a problem with it, and I'm so glad that Grace was like, no, I support you 100%, because yes, she got a problem with it. Yes, she feels away, but it's not about her in this moment, and Spencer needs closure. Spencer needs healing. He needs to be able to say what he gotta say and get answers, even if the answers are not going to be really anything that validates what has happened. He needs to be able to hear them. So we get to see that towards the end of the episode. In this episode, we see Coop talk with Laura about Preach, which plants the seeds for us to see later on Coop talking to Preach about how loyal he was and breaking it down like, yo, Sean's brother, you were really tight tight with, and Tyrone had Sean killed. Like, that don't sit right with you. Like, that don't, draw up anything for you. And then we get the whole, confirmation of like, Preach is like, yeah, I got it from here. What you want to have happen is gonna happen. And I wish Coop would just have left it. This is a pop out moment for me, y'all. Leave it there. You should have just left it there. Once he said he was gonna handle Tyrone, nobody was gonna have to worry about him anymore. You should have said, mission accomplished. I can go home and sleep well now. But y'all know we got Nancy Drew of the hood, Coop, and she don't know how to let, sleeping dogs lie. But I digress. When we finally do see Olivia in this episode, it's when she's showing up for Layla's house alone. She understands how she probably feels and she shows up for her. So these girls definitely do have true friend moments. Like, while they have some very interesting and stressful times, they have definitely shown up for each other as friends. And when Olivia pops up here, it's really a sight for sore eyes on Layla, because she had just called her dad and didn't get an answer, and she's really just trying to figure out how to make it through the next minute and hour. And you can tell that she's just so appreciative of Olivia showing up for her in this way. And before the episode completely closes, we get a visit from Billy to GW, and he like, look, how much you gonna charge me to completely stay out of Jordan's life? Because Jordan has decided that he's not gonna cut ties with GW, and he feels like this is a connection to his heritage and a part of him and all of that. Again, I'm not fully convinced, but Jordan feels like that. He's not gonna give rid of GW, so Billy's like, well, let me go ahead and do it for you. And y'all, they know they did wrong for ending the episode how they did. They end the episode on a conversation between Spencer and Corey, and Spencer is already at an emotional place because him telling Grace that he's going to go talk to Corey prompts Grace to finally be honest with him about what actually happened in the situation leading up to his father leaving. And he comes to find out that Billy and Grace had an affair. So he comes to him and he's like, yo, you are back for one of three reasons. You want to mess up Grace and Billy's life. You think I'm about to be your meal ticket, or you actually want a relationship with me. Which one is it? And it's through this freaking beautifully delivered, just in-depth, nuanced performance by Daniel Ezra as Spencer. It is so tear-filled and emotional, and you literally can feel every single word coming out of his mouth. And like, he's speaking to this man who left him for 8 years because of the actions, seemingly, of somebody else. And like, you literally thought that this was okay. You found enough validation in a decision to leave me and leave Dillon because of these two people. So were they more worthy than us? Like, I could only imagine what is going through freaking Spencer's head in this moment of like having to confront him in this way. And he literally prefaces it by saying like, I'm only here to talk to you because you're the easiest of the conversations that need to be had in this whole thing. And I felt that. We don't actually get an answer from Corey before the episode closes, y'all. And that's where I'm going to end my episode 14 breakdown. I hope that y'all are enjoying it. We are in the thick of season 1, leading up into the final episodes of the season, where things get very dramatic and very intense. These are definitely some of my favorite episodes of the entire series. They're just so heart-wrenching and deep in character development and thought and feelings, and I love them, even when they make me feel sad or feel down or feel disappointed for particular characters that I'm definitely rooting for. It all feels very grounded and real, and I'm enjoying it. If you're new here, I'm Erica Vane, and I post new All American videos every day, sometimes twice a day, and you should really join the tribe by hitting subscribe. I think you're gonna love it here. Right now, I am doing new videos where I break down episodes in season 1 and 2, and you don't want to miss it, so hit that subscribe button, join the tribe, and you'll be notified every time I post a video so that you don't miss any of them. In addition to breaking down All American, I'm breaking down all the top television shows and giving you film reviews. So again, I think that you're gonna like it here, and it's definitely worth the subscribe. If you liked this video, if you are rewatching episode 14, I would love to know, one, what you potentially liked about this video, and then also, what did you love about this episode? Let me know all your positive vibes and thoughts in the comment section down below. I'll be sure to reply to you. Hit that like button because you made it to the end of the video, and I know that you liked it, and I will see you in my next amazing All-American video. If you missed anything up until now, I have my season 1 playlist link for you on screen, as well as my All About All-American playlist. Get into it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!